guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 26, here with my brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing today?
Doing excellent. Back after a break, ready to talk fights. Happy to be here.
Absolutely, and guys, as I think many of you already know, it's not just myself and Fight Geek today. Later on in the program, we are going to be joined by the one and only Kraken himself. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Juan Adams, who is scheduled to face Greg Hardy in almost exactly a month. Cannot wait for that, but there is so much to break down before that happens. We've got so much to discuss: a Bellator 222 recap. We've got the UFC Greenville Preview. We've got the Bellator London Preview. And we're even going to dive into a little bare-knuckle FC6 Lobov versus Paulie Malignaggi. Let me start off the episode with this question for you, Fight Geek. Bellator 222 had a lot of great fights, but it saw the slaughter of some of Bellator's biggest prized ponies. And I'm doing this off the top of my head here, but we had Caldwell lose, we had Dantas lose, we had Aaron Pico lose, we had Heather Hardy lose, and we had Chael Sonnen lose and retire. So let me ask you this right off the bat. In terms of building that Bellator brand identity, was this the most devastating card for Bellator in Bellator history?
Devastating? No, I don't say it's devastating. I mean, each individual storyline, other than Chael, still is going. So I mean, I don't think obviously the polish is been knocked off of Pico a little bit, but when he comes back, I'm pretty sure that everybody in the MMA world is going to be extremely interested in how he looks and who he's fighting against. So even though it's a little different, I mean, his storyline is still very interesting. Caldwell, a young prospect who we haven't seen through a lot of adversity yet. He's hitting the first patch of adversity in his career. What will he do? I think that's interesting moving forward. Heather Hardy, you know, she's kind of a fringe crossover athlete. You know, I don't know what her ceiling was ever going to be in MMA, so to see her struggling a bit is not a huge surprise to me. You know, she's a boxer. She looked like she's a boxer when she was on the ground, and she's also taken quite a bit of damage in a few fights. So I think Bellator still has quite a bit to look forward to. I think the card top to bottom felt like it had more meat on the bone than a regular Bellator card. I was entertained, win, lose, or draw in all those fights. For the most part, it was a very good card. Even people like, and I may, is not Pat Mix. What is Mix's first name? The guy who beat Bandejas?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot, but Mix is Mix is his last name, that's for sure.
Mix is his last name, but he is a guy now who shoots up to the top of their, you know, kind of prospect watch with how he took Ricky's back and, you know, finished him immediately. I don't think it could have been more impressive for that guy. So no, I don't think it was horrible for Bellator. They had one of their most popular champions and their best free agent signing ever, Rory McDonald, defend in what I believe was you know, an impressive performance. You know, it wasn't the most exciting performance, but I think it was certainly an impressive performance by Rory. So yeah, all in all, I do not think it was a devastating card at all. I think, you know, Pico is a cautionary tale of, you know, too much too soon for a 21, 22-year-old guy. This is fighting, professional fighting. I think we've seen it with people like Paige Van Zandt, Sage Northcutt, Aaron Pico, that no matter how bad you want to rush that process, this is a process. And guys like Robbie Lawler and Michael Bisping, and it can go on forever, show you that it takes a while to really mature and get the experience you need to be, you know, the elite of the elite. You don't see many 21, 22-year-olds that are elite. So all in all, no, not devastating. Interesting for sure, but I think we have some good storylines coming out.
Yep. Agree with almost all of that. Here is where I will respectfully disagree. Is I think that Caldwell's loss to Horiguchi was particularly bad for the Bellator promotion. Here's why I say that. You know, obviously Horiguchi, the rising champion, I know that a lot of people will say that Ryzen is right up there with, one championship, Bellator, and the UFC on sort of the A list. I actually, and I'm sure I'm in the minority on this, I think that Ryzen is perhaps just one half step below those other three organizations in terms of, eliteness, for lack of a better word. That's a horrible.
So are you saying, I don't understand what that means, though. So you're saying, you don't think Horiguchi, him taking a belt off of Caldwell, somehow shows that Bellator has the lesser talent, or I don't understand.
It's great for Ryzen. It's amazing for them, but yeah, it's
but
a
I
bad
don't even
look
think
for
of it
Bellator.
promotionally. I would just say this is Horiguchi versus Caldwell. Horiguchi's a much more seasoned, experienced fighter at the top stages in MMA. So for Caldwell to lose to a guy who's that seasoned, and he really didn't lose by a lot. It was a back and forth fight. It was razor close. Some people may have even called it for Caldwell. I had Horiguchi 48-47.
I did
but
too.
I mean, Horiguchi is one of the best fighters in the world. So, I mean, I don't think it's an indictment on Caldwell or Bellator that he now has their title. Actually, I think it actually raises the status of that champion. I think Horiguchi worldwide has much more gravitas to him than Darian Caldwell does. So I actually think it raises their profile a little with him being their champion.
You think it raises the Bellator? It raises their profile?
Well, it raises that division's profile, now having a champion who's Horiguchi and is more worldwide a commodity.
But it's not their champion. It's Ryzen's champion.
But he's both champions. They're working cross-promotionally. He carries both belts. Horiguchi is technically a part of Bellator now.
I hear what you're saying.
So
okay. Well, let me.
So for instance,
yeah.
Let's say the guys that the UFC are fighting now potentially could sign with Bellator in hopes of fighting Horiguchi someday.
Right.
You don't think there's an appeal to that?
No, there definitely is. I'm just saying, I still think that it hurts the Bellator brand by it's clearly saying Ryzen's champion was better than our champion.
But it's Horiguchi was better than Caldwell. It's irrelevant who was who. You look at the fighters.
Okay, let me reword the question. I hear what you're saying. That's fair. Let me reword it. If Max Holloway and Bellator made a deal for the featherweight title, Holloway came over and fought Patricky Pitbull. Patricio. Oh, gosh, I always get them confused. And Pitbull goes and defeats Max Holloway. Are you going to tell me that that's not an embarrassing black eye for the UFC?
I think that's more of a black eye than what we're seeing here.
How so?
Well, I think the UFC desperately tries to protect their image and their fighters, so it would just be, like public perception would be that it was a bigger deal, in my opinion. But in reality, I look at it as matchups, fights. Take away the banners and the colors and all that. The guy's fighting. And I think Horiguchi, I thought, was going to win. So him winning was not that much of a surprise. I'm sure it couldn't have been that much of a surprise for Scott Coker, considering he just beat Caldwell a few months back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really see it that way, but we can agree to disagree. #SplitPodcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so in terms of other major Bellator 222 stories, obviously Chael Sonnen, did retire. I personally thought it was the perfect time for him to retire. I almost think it was perhaps a fight too late. What were your thoughts on the retirement and the performance of Machida?
Well, I don't think it was one too many. I think he had a legitimate claim to that Machida fight with Henderson and Randy losing to him. That made sense. That probably actually meant something to him.
Fair.
So I could see him wanting that fight before he left. So I think this was the right fight. I think he took hellacious damage. He caught 2 flying knees right to the side of the face, which he proved his chin. His chin certainly hadn't gone in his later years because he took some damage and never went out. But yeah, Machida looked great. You put Machida in there with someone who is at a striking disadvantage and is slower than him, he's going to look like that against every one of them. He's just that kind of guy. Machida's going to struggle with guys who are more physically imposing than him and can have the quickness to get in and out and impose their athleticism. Chael was never going to do that. I thought Chael might be able to drag him down and wear him out because at 205, I wasn't sure how Machida would look. That's actually 20 more pounds than he'd been carrying recently. But I thought he looked great at 205. I think he looks quick at 205, which was always his strength at 205. Yeah, he looked great. Chael, it was fun while it lasted. He has his place in history. I appreciate it all. Was never the biggest fan of his fighting style. I do think he was a great entertainer. So hats off to him for, all he did for the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Hard to disagree with that. Any other major Bellator 222 storylines we want to jump into? And I know that we've got a listener question about Pico, so I don't want to talk about him quite yet.
So, yeah, what'd you think of Dylan Dennis? And I heard he blew his knee out, or his LCL out.
Man, I fall in the middle there where I don't despise Dennis, but I certainly don't like him. What
did you think of his performance? Was he improved from the first time you saw him?
I guess. He fought two complete and total bums, and I'm very comfortable saying that. You could see that he took, I don't even remember his opponent's name, nor do I want to, so don't even tell me it. I know he took him down and was toying with him. He clearly could have gone for the submission far earlier.
Well, he said he was unable to lock in one of his legs because his knee was injured, so that's what took a little bit longer. Anyways, you believe he has potential moving forward to be a player someday, or what?
In Bellator,
has he shown enough to challenge for a title there someday?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And he was wearing my grandmother's panties as shorts. What was going on there? It looked like something out of a 1950s movie. The cheetah print.
At least he's not plain and bland. So what about Juan Archuleta's one-shot knockout of former champion Dantas? What'd you think of that fight?
Yeah, what a overhand right. I even tweeted right before the fight. I said, "Ooh, looks like a really big size discrepancy. I hope this doesn't end badly. Hope I'm wrong." And of course, it ended badly. I was not wrong. I thought that Dantas just looked so small. What'd you think?
Yeah, he was coming up in weight, and, Dantas has taken a lot of damage. He had, broken his ankle last fight, so this was a big comeback fight for him. And to lose like that, that's a tough one to take. But Juan Archuleta is 22-1, 23-1, something like that. I think he's one of the true Bellator-built contenders they have, and if he were able to capture a title, I think is a guy for Bellator that, is one of the success stories of the guys they've brought along. They brought him along very slowly at first, and he kind of caught his steam. In the last few performances, he's looked like a legitimate threat, So excited to see where he's going moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I know that afterwards I watched the press conference and Juan Archuleta was asking for a title shot. I agree that he deserves a title shot, but I was going to ask you, what happens now in terms of the 45-pound Bellator belt? Because Scott Coker announced that he was sending Patricio over to Rizin for, I believe, their 145-pound tournament, if I'm not mistaken. It may have been their 55 tournament, but he's getting sent over there for a tournament. So what's going to happen to Juan Archuleta? Does he just wait?
Well, I guess that means that the title would be on hold until the championship round of that tournament, right?
Yeah, sounds like a really long time for Juan to wait. I feel a little bad for him.
Okay, yeah, I agree completely. So one last thing then. I know there was speculation of Pico being in that tournament. Do you turn around and put him in that tournament right now, or do you go back to scratch and start having him fight guys who are 3 and 4?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people on Twitter, especially some of the highly distinguished MMA journalists and pundits saying, all right, it's not even a question. It's time for Pico to take a step back in competition and find his bearings. And my answer to that is, it's too late. The cat's out of the bag. It's too late. He has got to go, and he's got to go and face the abyss now. It's too late for that. He's 4-3. It's win or go home. Next fight, which by the way is going to draw a lot of eyeballs. But throw him into the lion's den. It's too late. Throw him into the lion's den.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't see him doing that. I think they'll pump the brakes. So especially considering that was a clean knockout. He caught that knee right on the chin. And the game plan looked wrestling heavy, but to me, he looked really stiff with everything he was doing in that fight. So even though he was in, a certain amount of control, it still wasn't as fluid or confident as we had seen him in the past, for sure. So at least that was my take on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, Pico's a mess. I don't know how else to say it. He's a mess.
So, and this is technically his third camp already in his career, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I know he was
AKA to begin
for a long time, and then he went.
He was with the Body Shop, right, as well, with AJ McKee.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just DC's camp, and then he went to Jackson Wink.
Well, no, he was also in TJ's camp prior.
Oh gosh, wow. He just is he just seeking out the cheaters?
Anyways, I think that may be a problem. He needs to settle in somewhere and get a consistent voice.
Yeah.
Last thing on Bellator 222 though, what are your thoughts on Rory, his performance, and now facing Lima in the finals?
Yeah, well, I've got two different thoughts on that. Number one, I thought Rory looked very, very solid against Neiman Gracie. Did not like Neiman's comments after Rory's previous fight where, Rory obviously was expressing some concern about hurting people, and Neiman was just so classless, saying, oh, you're just scared. So I really wanted Neiman to lose. I took a lot of pleasure in watching his defeat. And I don't take pleasure in watching too many people lose, but he was one of them.
Sure.
But, man, I think that when you consider that first Rory versus Lima fight and how close it was, that Douglas is just going to be chopping away at those legs. And I favor Lima to win the rematch. What about you?
Yeah, right now I can't really disagree with that. Rory did what he needed to technically to win. I don't know if we saw, a killer instinct out of Rory. Technically, I think he showed exactly how good he is on the mat defensively. Obviously, his jab and, his striking is always kind of his strength. So I think he looked good, but I'm just not seeing, especially when watching what Lima has done in his last few fights, I just don't think that's a great fight at this time, but that's why that's why they'll get in the cage and just determine it that way. So I'm interested to see what happens there. So I think that does it for Bellator 222, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Should we jump into the UFC Greenville preview?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So we'll keep this relatively high level. There's so much to cover today. We've got Juan coming in a few minutes. But, Andrea KGB Lee in women's flyweight versus Montana De La Rosa. Not sure why I said Montana. Who do you got there?
I like this fight. I actually like both fighters. I'm taking Andrea, isn't it KGB Lee?
Yeah.
Is that her nickname?
Yeah.
I will take her. I think she's going to have a tremendous striking advantage over Montana. Montana's a great grappler and very tough, and I think an up-and-coming prospect for sure. Probably not too far from being in the mix in that division, but I just think the experience of Lee will be a little too much and the striking. So I'm taking Lee, and I'll take her by unanimous decision.
Okay, all right. I'm going to take KGB Lee by second round stoppage. I think she's very good. I think she's actually a little underrated. And frankly, I won't be surprised at all if KGB Lee is facing Valentina for the title sooner rather than later, and I certainly think she's more than deserving.
Well, did you see before we hopped on air that Valentina's booked versus Carmouche as the main event in UFC Uruguay?
I did see that. I did see that. They're getting all wild with the title fights lately. Getting real wild. But
all right. So hey, I'll watch that fight.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the third fight from the bottom, welterweight Brian Barberina versus, I believe it's Rude Boy, Randy Brown.
Yes.
I remember him as the guy who dismantled Mickey Gall, so I always liked him because I don't like Mickey Gall. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that fight?
Another tough fight to pick and break down. Barberina's a dog. He's a grinder, and he's tough to pick against, but I think Randy Brown has the tools and the athleticism to get it done. Randy Brown by split decision.
All right, ready? I got Barberina by unanimous decision. I think Brian Barberina is so good at just gutting through things and making fights ugly, and I think that he's going to out tough Randy Brown in a unanimous decision.
I can see that. But very tough fight. Be a fun one to watch.
Yep. And then now we've got the co-main event. We've got bantamweight John Lineker versus Rob Font.
Tough fight to call. I keep saying that, but man, when you just look at these, you can make a case for either guy. But I have a hard time going against John Lineker. I know he's coming off a loss, but there's just really very few people that can deal with his pressure and can stay away from him for 15 whole minutes. So I just am going to roll the dice here with John Lineker, hands of stone. I'll take him by second round TKO.
Ooh, all right. So we do agree, hands of stone, John Lineker is going to win this one. But give me the TKO at the very, very end of the first round.
Okay, a little different.
Yep.
But Font is going to have a reach advantage. He's a little bit longer and rangier. He also hits very hard too, so we'll see. We've never seen John Lineker really wobbled even, I don't think. So.
Oh, these fights could go either way. I mean, they are great fights, and they are tough to call. But now the main event, and I really like this fight, featherweight Chan Sung Jung, a.k.a. the Korean Zombie, the one and only Korean Zombie, versus Renato Moicano. Wow. Just wow. What a fireworks show this will be, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks here. Moicano coming off kind of his first beating in his career. The Korean Zombie coming off a stoppage loss in a classic and an extended layoff again. I mean, where to begin? Whoever thinks they know what's going to happen in this one is just wild. But I'm going to go with the Korean Zombie here. And I think he's just so much. I'm not sure that Moicano is going to be able to just outlast him. Not a lot of guys do outlast him. I don't think Moicano is going to put the kind of variety and striking on him that Yair did. So I think he'll probably take less damage than he did in his last fight, which is always good for him because he takes damage basically in every fight.
Yep.
So I could make a case for Moicano, but this time I'm going the Korean Zombie by fourth round TKO.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah, to me, what this fight comes down to is the mindset of Chan Sung Jung, right? What did that beyond devastating, last-second knockout loss to Yair Rodriguez do to his psyche? That's what it's going to come down to. I mean, we've already seen in the past, I'm thinking particularly of the Jose Aldo fight with Moicano, that I think that he seems to get a little nervous under the bright lights.
Right, but didn't Aldo stop Moicano, so he's going to be dealing with that mentally. Moicano's previous loss was a tough decision loss to Brian Ortega, so that was the first beating that Moicano's taken in his career as well. So this is a big mental test for him, stepping up against one of the biggest name opponents of his career, arguably the second biggest name of his career.
Yes, no, absolutely. I guess the reason that I said that I feel that it's coming down to the Korean Zombie's psyche is because I believe that the Korean Zombie is the more talented fighter. So that's why I say that. But no doubt they're both coming off of losses. They're both coming off of having to deal with some serious mental demons. Give me the Korean Zombie by unanimous decision. I think that Moicano will make it to the bell somehow, some way, probably in horrendous shape, looking like a horror movie, but I think he makes it to the bell and loses a lopsided unanimous decision to the Korean Zombie.
Yeah, Korean Zombie fight is always fun, so looking very forward to that one.
Yep, absolutely. Do we want to really quickly touch on Bellator London?
Yeah, let's do it real quick, and then we'll be done with it. So
Yeah.
jump right in.
Well, was there a fight you wanted to discuss besides obviously that main event?
The main event is very interesting to me, so let's just jump off there. I'm going to dive into it, and I'll let you know if I see something.
Yeah.
Gegard Mousasi versus Rafael Lovato Jr., 9-0 submission, wizard for Bellator, one of their better, title contenders that they've had come up through their ranks. Again, you think about the guys who have lost, the Picos and stuff, but they actually have some established guys, some Juan Archuleta, some Lovato Jr., some guys that are real fighters, man. These guys are high level. I mean, they may not be challenging for a UFC belt, but these are top 15 guys are floating around that level, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Can't see my man Gegard Mousasi losing this one. Lovato Jr.'s strength is his jiu-jitsu, but I think Mousasi has proven over the years that he has good enough MMA jiu-jitsu to at least defend himself and get himself out of bad situations. And we're talking about a guy who has, 53 fights fighting a guy who has 9 fights. Gegard's one of the most experienced fighters on the planet today when it comes to MMA rounds and competition. And I think that experience, along with his well-rounded skills, will probably be the difference here. And I'm going to take him by 3rd-round knockout.
Yeah, I have to stop letting you pick the fights first. So that's gotta stop. Again, look, I'm gonna be honest. Rafael Lovato Jr. He's great and all, but I just don't see him challenging Gegard. I really don't. I do agree that I think Lovato Jr. is going to go to at least the 3rd round. I actually see him get into the 4th round. My favorite, my lucky 4th round that I'm always picking fights to stop by. I've got Mousasi getting the stoppage via TKO in the 4th round.
Awesome, and we'll just call out the return of James Gallagher. I'm expecting him to win, but he's noteworthy. And then the other fight I want to call out is Paul Daly versus Eric Silva. I think this will be fun. Not necessarily, 2 elite guys, but they both like to swing. Both of them gas out, so it means we should probably get, 5 to 8 minutes of fun action and then someone getting finished. So that's always fun.
Yep.
Other than that, there's some other names. Fabian Edwards fights again on the card. Leon Edwards' little brother, I believe. He's a good fighter. Charlie Ward from SBG Ireland's fighting, and Aaron Chalmers, who's, I think, Geordie Shore guy?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So he's actually won a couple fights and lost one, so noteworthy names. Bellator cards are getting more and more fun, in my opinion. At least I'm recognizing the guys, and, so.
Yeah.
Cool.
Agreed.
So, are we ready to move on?
I think we are. Absolutely. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. We are now joined by our very special guest, the one and only Juan the Kraken Adams. Juan, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing great, man. How are y'all?
Doing awesome.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, so before we get into the serious questions, Juan, you were just mentioning off air some Game of Thrones sneakers you're getting for your girl. I hope that's okay. We bring it up. Can you tell us about these? He's getting Game of Thrones sneakers. That's like the coolest thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah. So, Adidas have released a line and right when they went up for sale, they pretty much sold out. So I didn't really, I finally got her hooked on the show 2 months before the last season started. So she got obsessed with it, and she had sent me this link on Instagram and I figured I'd click it, see if they had any available, and they had them in her size. It's funny, they didn't have them in her size. They had like a half size too big or a half size too small. So I erred on the side of caution, went with the larger size, and then they had them in mine, so I got us a matching pair. But they came in, and I saw why they were the price they were. So
I love it.
But they're not the Adidas brand.
I love it. Okay, so on to the real question. So tonight, as you probably know, marked the return of Dana White's Tuesday Night Contenders series. Obviously, very fitting to have you on the podcast tonight. After you went 3-0 with Legacy Fighting Alliance, you were invited to Tuesday Night Contenders, where you earned that decisive TKO victory in the first round against Sean Teed, earning yourself a contract with Dana. What advice do you have for pro fighters who are just getting started and are dying to get an invite to Tuesday Night Contenders?
Man, you gotta be different. For me, I got on there because I was, I had a personality and showed through in some of my LFA interviews and things like that. But it was a lot of people trying so hard to get noticed that they start doing off the wall stuff, and it's too far outside of their character, outside of who they really are, and it's hard to maintain that. And people get tired of it after a while. So don't focus, like that part's important, the social aspect, the fanfare, all that. It's really important to get noticed, but at the end of the day, you got to win.
Yep.
So if it's a balancing act. If you're not getting decisive, hellacious victories in there, destructive victories, then you got to do something to make up for it. But at the end of the day, the record does matter. And for me, I got on there because I fought 7 times in 16 months, and my total cage time, amateur fights included, I think it was in 20 minutes. So, it showed that I was just a step above all the regional competition. And then on top of that, I had some pretty entertaining interviews out there. And they gave me my shot, and I just ran with it.
Really quick follow-up question. So you're still currently training with Paradigm Training Center, is that correct?
Yes, and Fight Lab, and there's a couple of boxing places I go to as well.
Excellent. So are there any prospects that you're currently training with, whether they're at Paradigm or Fight Lab or otherwise, that you think will be stars in the UFC in a couple of years?
It's hard to say. I think my training partner, Sebastian, of course, he's got all the potential to do it. The biggest thing is a lot of you guys have to go for it the way they want to. For me, when I started, I was 6 months removed from graduating college. I didn't really have a whole lot. I had a lot going for me, but nothing that I was really interested in. And I just said, screw it. I'm going to go all in on this, put my body through hell, so I know for sure whether or not I can make it. And I just went for it and did it. And I think there's a lot of Houston fighters in the area, like Alden Correa, for example. He's like a 125, 135 pounder, and nobody will fight him down here. He's super talented. There's a lot of super talented guys on any given Fury card. Daniel Pineda's still fighting. He's back on the regional circuit. Nobody makes it out of the first round with him. We got Jacob Silva down here who's doing great things at 125. And, so there's a lot of talent. Houston's a hot. Colin Wright's another guy. He's on a 3 or 4 fight win streak now, I think. He's super talented as well. He could do it. There's so many talented guys here, but they just don't have, whether they're not getting the push or they're not getting the fights they need or whatever, they're just not getting that chance. They can't really go for it yet. But I think as the sport continues to grow and becomes more and more mainstream, you're seeing more and more local shows getting these opportunities to get on a network or a high-tier, high-volume streaming service.
Awesome. So would you say, based on, you say you're seeing more regional shows pop up, Obviously, the UFC is 25, 26 years old, so the popularity of the sport's kind of at an all-time high. Would you say there's more guys participating in the sport, thus bringing kind of the overall skill level down? That's why the higher-end guys can't get fights? Or would you say that the skill level across the board is just a lot higher than it used to be?
Yes and no. I think your mid to high tier guys are a lot better, but there's a higher, a lot of the hobbyists, the low to mid guys that you build your career off of to get up there, they're not necessarily fighting as much now because they're running into, these guys that, maybe didn't like other sports, or these really high caliber athletes that didn't like other sports and are doing MMA now, and they're running into these killers like early in their career, and then they don't want to fight anymore. So there are more people doing it, and I think that amateur ranks are really congested, but the mix is there's such a wide range and a huge variance in ability that when you run into that, these guys kind of get discouraged. And then the really high tier, it's hard to fight because everyone knows, like, getting a loss sets you back 2 or 3 fights if you're not already in the UFC.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. So you came up through LFA ranks. I've heard a lot of good things from other LFA fighters. What can you say about your experience coming through their ranks?
Man, it was great. I have nothing bad to say about my LFA experiences. They always found opponents for me. One big guy that I was at LFA, my opponents was for the experience of my opponents has vastly outweighed mine. I think at 1-0, I fought a guy that was 4-1 with 10 pro boxing fights, and then at 2-0, a guy that 8-7 with pro boxing fights also. And,
wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a coincidence because as I was looking over your bio, I saw, your last opponent technically has quite a bit more experience than you did. So is that something you've pretty much experienced most of your climb?
Yeah, it has been. And, I don't, for me, I feel like anyone can lose on any given day. I feel like on any given day I can beat anyone. So I wasn't really tripping too much about all of the fighting or, too caught on his experience or anything like that. I just wanted to go. I wanted an opponent. I told the UFC, like, hey, man, I want to be active. Like, please give me an opponent,
Right. And it sounds like you had an opponent in mind this whole time who you're finally going to get to square off with, huh?
Yeah, Greg Hardy. I finally get this bum, I've been kind of forever not a fan of his.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, this is obviously going to have the most eyes of any fight you've been in, obviously because of the opponent, because of kind of, the way he's been built, and obviously your notoriety from the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. So is that a lot of added pressure knowing that this is the highest profile fight of your career, or is it just business as usual and it's a guy you want to get after?
For me, it's business as usual. It's someone I want to get after. I don't like him. Plain and simple, I just don't like him. I never have said I liked him. I've never, mixed words. I don't think he deserves any of the publicity that he's getting. I don't think he deserves any of the opportunities that he's been given. And I don't think he's on my level. Plain and simple.
Yeah, absolutely. So Juan, now that you're fighting the human scumbag, oh wait, sorry, I meant Greg Hardy. My bad, Greg Hardy. Is there any particular style differences that you're going to make? Any kinds of specific strategies you're going to implement to defeat the guy, or again, is it just really you're going to implement your game plan? That heavy wrestling and just just tire him out.
I'm chalking up my wrestling. One thing I've been doing really, focusing on nutrition, my cardio, my training regimen, everything. Changed a lot, and I'm hoping it pays off, and I'm hoping that it shows. Yeah, I'm taking it more seriously now. Prior to these last 2 fights, you know, everyone's goal was to get to the UFC, to fight the UFC, and you know, I reached that goal way quicker than even my manager and I had intended. So, you know, you get there and it's kind of like, oh, I'm here now. Like, I know I'm not making any title runs in the next 3 to 4 years. So I just, you know, just mathematically, I didn't see that as a possibility. So I was just trying to get as good as I could everywhere. I recognized that there were a lot of holes in my game, and you know, it kind of, you know, puts a damper on you sometimes. You sit there and you train, or you'll get hit with something, and you're like, man, you know, I thought I'd be farther along right now. Or you realize how much farther you have to go, right. And that can get depressing after a time. But you know, not like my opponent definitely helps with all that, because I'm just like, I don't care. Even if I'm not where I want to be, I'm better than him. So.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And then a really quick follow-up question, Juan. So I don't know if you took a look at our podcast page, but a lot of people are really, really excited to have you whoop his ass. Have you noticed specifically an increase in people reaching out to you, and you know, since the fight was made, saying, you know, beat his ass, you know, whoop him? You know, have you noticed a big increase in fanfare towards you because of this fight?
Definitely. There has been a big increase. I think I gained like 800 Instagram followers and Twitter followers off of it. You know, a lot of people just don't like him. And, you know, a lot of other fighters haven't really been outspoken about it, haven't asked for the fight the way I have. You know, I lobbied for the greater part of 8 months for this fight. So, you know, I want to fight him. And it's been cool seeing a lot of that support, a lot of people pouring in, but there's also a lot of haters, you know. Surprising amount. Most of them are like inbred or insults. Most of them are like inbred, Florida residents, stuff like that. But I haven't really met anyone like above the average IQ that's supporting Greg Hardy.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Absolutely. Fight Geek, you got a question?
Yeah, I saw in your bio that you were a wrestler, played football, and did track and field. So I was just kind of wondering, do you think that, you know, those experiences, that athleticism gives you a leg up? I know we see a lot of times where people who kind of transition from other sports generally do. So you're facing another athlete who has some professional experience. So where do you see that being a factor here?
You know, I think we're closer to the same athletic ability than people realize. You know, yeah, he did play in the NFL, but at the same time, you know, he had one good year in the NFL. You know, he was all pro 1 year. Obviously, if they thought he was talented enough, he'd still be in the NFL. There's people that have done the same thing, or some people would argue worse, that still got their shot. So he's not as athletic as people are trying to say. The problem is, like, you know, MMA is a relatively young sport, so there's not a whole lot of top-tier athletes that are doing the sport. They're starting to come over to it now, which is the appeal. That's what was part of Sage Northcutt's big appeal, you know. Super athletic guy, can do things that most humans can't do. So that plays a big role in it. And, you know, so there's always that shock and awe factor of, oh, an NFL guy, or, you know, this guy that's been super successful in another area is coming over to MMA. But you look down at it, and he's only got speed in one direction, and he's not as athletic as people are trying to say he is.
And would you, I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but you would say you're the most athletic guy he's fought to this point?
Oh, hands down, you know. Most athletic guy he's fought to this point, I feel like I'm, you know, if not the most athletic guy on the heavyweight roster, I'm definitely top 3. So I don't feel that any of his competitions ever even come close. Like I said, none of his competition has a UFC win. So
that's very telling.
Yeah, absolutely. And Juan, I wanted to ask you a question that you're probably not asked too much. Did a lot of research on you. in prep for this interview, saw that while you were at VMI, you received a BS in computer science with a minor in exercise science. You made the dean's list twice. So are these subjects that you'd potentially like to pursue down the road after your MMA career?
Definitely a no on the computer science. But exercise science, yes, I could see myself pursuing that down the road. I am very interested in it. I do find it super intriguing. Working with my trainer he just got his double degree in human nutrition and exercise science. He's working with him has really opened my eyes, and it's made me a lot more interested in the field as a whole. Computer science, though, that's one of those things where, I forget the technical term for it, but the rate at which technology advances grows exponentially every year. So it's one of those things where if you don't continue to stay certified and keep learning and are passionate about, you fall behind, you get obsolete really quick. And I haven't looked at any of that stuff since I graduated college. I can still code a little bit of Java. I learned programming languages pretty quickly, so that's what helped me get that degree. I mean, I switched to that degree in college because it was something that I didn't have to try very hard at.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to try very hard at it, and I could still pass all my classes relatively easily, and I could focus on wrestling more. That's why I switched. I started off as an electrical and computer engineering major, and I switched over to computer science because I would always fry the circuit boards. My hands were so big, like I was trying to put the holes and stuff, and when I would solder it, I would look down and I'd be off by like one or two spots on the fretboard, and all my stuff would start smoking and stuff. So that's what dangerous.
Oh, man. Okay, one last follow-up, and then I'm going to hand it back to Fight Geek. So I know that prior to formally starting your MMA career, you tried out for WWE. Now, is that something that you'd like to pursue after your MMA career is over?
That would be a lot of fun, actually. So, funny story about that. When I went up for that tryout, I was going through a breakup, and I was like, I don't want to be here, but it's a free trip to Florida, so screw it. And I'm up there, and like I was doing everything they had. They kept saying like, "Well, show us some personality, like show us something, blah blah blah." I'm like, man, my personality is like it's a give and take type deal. You gotta
be in the mood.
Yeah.
Be like, look at me, I'm on like. It's a very passive thing, So that would be a lot of fun, man. You get to travel the world, but their travel schedule is intense. You work like 200 days out of the year. That have to be something that, sit down with my girlfriend or wherever that goes, and we'd have to make a decision with that and have to talk to my family and things like that, because I got a lot of stuff I got to take care of down here. So.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So before we get right into the listener questions, I just want to ask, I think the Kraken is a very fitting nickname. Just wanted to know who dubbed that and when it started.
Okay, so it's really funny. My big brother gave me the nickname.
Oh.
And we've been training together forever. And he got me started in the bouncing thing, so I could make money after I graduated, like extra cash and all that. And we were just chilling one day, and he was getting ready for a fight himself, and he was going to go by the fight name Cthulhu.
Okay.
And he's like, man, if I'm going by Cthulhu, you should probably go by the Kraken. I was like, well, I mean, I like Kraken rum, but I don't really see, because I knew a little bit of mythology, and I understood the reference. Kraken's this big beast, like unstoppable force, a weapon of the gods, all that. But for me, I just like the rum. So
right.
He goes, well, then it's perfect. You drink Kraken rum, this big beast, nobody can beat you. Like that's got to be your nickname. So
nice.
I was like, oh, sure, why not? and he started calling me that, and a bunch of other people started calling me that. So it just kind of stuck. Like, I actually didn't really. I wrote it down, but I didn't really think anyone would go with it. But it was really well received. People liked it, and it kind of took off. But it really started because I drank the world.
Nice. Very solid nickname. Very fitting. All right, you ready to get into some listener questions, Phil?
Yeah, let's do it. So, first and foremost, it's a lot of well wishes, really, to Juan. Juan, just so you know, everyone that we've come into contact with on Twitter wants you to just beat the crap out of Greg Hardy. So, I don't know where the haters are. I haven't found them. But, so 604 MMA, this is at 604 MMA. He asks, I want to know what Juan thinks of being on MMA's biggest stage. Is it what he expected? Are athletes a real step up in caliber, or has he faced tougher guys before, such as at LFA?
You know, what I'll say on that is it has not been everything that I expected. You know, it's been more. You know, it's been way more than I expected. I thought, you know, my life really wasn't going to change all that much. But now, you know, just in Target, I got recognized by some dude. I was like, hey, man, I'm doing an interview right now. I can't talk to you, but it's different. You know, at the gyms that I train at, people show up. They want pictures. You know, when I'm out in public, people will recognize me and, like, make a big deal out of talking to me and stuff. And, you know, it's cool sometimes, like, I don't mind people, but other times, like, I need my space, and I pull the fame boy card on my arm. You know, leave me alone. But no, the athletes though, that is a big difference. What you notice is the skill level is very, very different, and the dedication is a little different. So here, anyone can beat you on any given day in the UFC. On a local circuit, you know, I would show up to fights. You know, that's when the candy that I eat before weigh-ins, like, I could get away with that stuff. And I was so much more athletic or so much better in certain areas that it didn't affect me. It didn't matter. In the UFC, you know, it's different. Yeah, everyone's tough. Everyone is good. It's either kind of good everywhere or really good in one area.
Right.
And, like, decent in the others. There's very few people that, like, outright suck in one area, you know, that can exploit it. So they're a little harder to exploit. That's different. But, you know, everything feels different. You know, at LFA, yeah, you're on TV. Yeah, there's a lot of people there, but the cage is a little bit smaller. You know, they still kind of got a family feel to it in there. And, you know, your opponents it's different. You know, the opponents, it's not saying UFC, though, you'll still run into some guys that are going for a title, some guys are just collecting a check. But the difference is, like, those guys that are just there to collect a check are way better than the guys that are just to collect a check on the regional circuit.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome.
But,
you know, the way the canvas feels is different. You know, every sense is different. Like, it's like almost a sensory overload type deal when you go out there.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, I got one from the Fighting With Myself podcast. He wants to know, what round will you finish Greg Hardy in, and what is your favorite Little Debbie snack?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. You know, I always say second round, strictly because if you set the expectation low, you can only overachieve. You know, I carry that into every aspect of my life. But so I really think I think I'll finish him in the second round. First round, obviously I'm going in there to get the win or whatever, but trying to finish in the first round is how you get gassed out. So I'm going for a second round finish. And the favorite Little Debbie snack is a tough one. You know, favorite year-round Little Debbie snack, I'm going to go and say the strawberry shortcake rolls. That's my favorite. But like I've got like a Mount Rushmore of Little Debbie snacks. So
Well, let's
like,
hear it.
right? So there's the Little Debbie, the strawberry shortcake rolls. Then there's the zebra cakes.
Zebra cakes.
That's a classic. You can't go wrong with them. Then there is the oatmeal cream pies, Old Faithful.
Oh, cream pies. You could eat those for breakfast, right?
Yeah. So, and then the fourth one is it's not served everywhere, but there's a little cakes, but they're cookies and cream. And yeah, and it's crazy. The icing is cookies and cream. It's chocolate cake, and then the filling in between the two cakes is cookies and cream.
Nice.
Changed my life, man.
Change it.
You're getting me hungry here. It's over. It's past dinner. You're getting me hungry now, Juan.
They did just bring, like, they have these, like, raspberry fudge sticks, too. That's an honorable mention. And then their seasonal items are always popping. You know, they had these Mother's Day sticks that were pretty good. They were, like, lemon-flavored. They do Easter iterations. Their fall harvest cake is amazing.
So all of them, basically.
Yeah, I like all of them.
For sure. You got one queued up?
Yeah, so really just a lot of quick well wishes. I've got our good friend at McMalley MMA. He's basically saying, tell Juan if he happens to accidentally crotch shot Greg repeatedly, we forgive him. If he wants to put a roll of quarters into his hand wraps, we can totally forget that he was holding them. Just a lot of well wishes that you beat up Greg Hardy. And then people are saying they want Mario Yamasaki to ref so that they can let Greg be a warrior, a.k.a. beat you up.
Right. I got one right here. Now, I know you can't really disclose your game plan to us, or probably wouldn't want to, but Uncle Yagi at Inzuki_101 wants to know, what are Hardy's strengths and weaknesses in your opinion? And I think you've already mentioned a couple.
Yeah, I muted that guy because he annoys me. But yeah, I said his strengths are obviously he's got one shot power, right?
Right.
Got good straight line speed. His weaknesses are he has horrible lateral movement. His cardio is abysmal, and his overall skill level is just low. So. Those are strengths and weaknesses. I'm not going to go into a full game plan.
Right.
Yeah. No, please don't. I want you to whoop his ass, so no need to disclose.
You look at his knees and stuff, and he's not very, his knees are very structurally weak. He doesn't move particularly well, and he doesn't fight with a high fight IQ. He just kind of goes in there and rages.
Right. I think that's fair enough. Got another one, Phil?
So yeah, again, just a lot of well wishes, but just really quickly wanted to say this is from Quinn. This is at Orthodox 1993. Tell Juan to do what so many of us want to see. Please whoop Greg Hardy bad for 3 full rounds. So they're saying don't finish him, just whoop his ass badly. But I don't know if you should take that advice. I don't know, but just wanted to pass it along.
He's not a particularly tough dude, so I don't think he can handle 15 minutes of that.
Yeah.
I think I go in there with that game plan, and he's still done within 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't particularly see this being a long fight. Just my opinion.
I feel like he's got 5 minutes tops, and then he blows his wad after 5 minutes tops, right? That's it.
Right.
Yep.
All right, and I think that's all the questions for Juan right now. You want to jump into some of the other questions real quick, or you want to just move on?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Juan, are you cool to hang out just for like another few minutes to discuss bare knuckle FC6, Artem versus Paulie Malignaggi? Make your prediction?
Oh, yeah, dude. I'm always down to talk about Lord Lowball.
Hell yeah!
Exactly, the GOAT.
I love Juan. Juan, you're our favorite guest. You're my favorite guest.
I'm glad you appreciate the shtick. I don't understand why people don't like it. It's fun.
No, Lord Lobov's the GOAT,
Lord Lobov.
Exactly.
All right.
So let's just jump into it. What are your thoughts on that fight? Are you familiar with Paulie Malignaggi? I know you're familiar with Artem.
And Paulie Malignaggi he's a funny dude. You know?
He is funny.
He's hilarious, and I think there's been a bad light shed on him with his whole Conor McGregor stuff. And people don't really appreciate how much of a goofball this guy is. He's hilarious, man.
I've been telling Phil forever that Paulie's not that bad, but he's gotten a bad rep.
Yeah, he's pretty bad.
Coach ponytail off of his hair in the middle of a fight. No, honestly, I think that Artem's gonna pull this one out. I do believe Paulie's a much better technical boxer, but you look at his hands, man. He's broken his hands so many times. This being bare knuckle does not bode well for him
at all.
Also he's not as good as he used to be, man. And it's a difference between doing 3-minute rounds. What are these, 2-minute rounds or 5-minute rounds?
I think they're 3, aren't they?
No, I think they're 2, bro. I think they're 2. They're weird.
Yeah.
2 5-minute rounds.
Okay. Yeah. So if it's 5-minute rounds, I guess.
Or sorry. 5 2-minute rounds. My bad.
Okay. Yeah. So cardio won't really be a big deal for Paulie, but I don't think he's got that same pop in his punches that he used to. And like I said, I think it being bare knuckle is really gonna mess with his head. I don't know if his knuckles can handle that.
I just don't know if he's got the dog in him to beat Artem Lobov in a bare knuckle fight. I mean, I don't think there's any question if he fought him for 30 minutes in a cage with 14-ounce gloves who'd win, but I just don't see how he has an opportunity in that amount of time to really hurt Artem. But I guess that's the intrigue of this one, right?
Yeah, and it's actually an interesting fight. Like, I want to see this.
Yeah, and I'm with, just for the record, Juan, I'm with you, bro. I think that Artem he's just gonna make this too physical. He's gonna make it too violent, and I see him badly hurting Paulie and getting the W. So I'm right there with you. Fight Geek, what do you say?
Yeah, I don't think Paulie's going to make it 10 minutes in there. I mean, I just really don't. I know he has great footwork when he was younger, and he was a very slick boxer, but he was never a guy who wanted to mix it up in the pocket. He was a guy who beats you with cardio and accumulation of shots over like 8, 9, 12 rounds. So I just don't really see how any of this plays to his strengths, especially considering Artem just, 6, 8 weeks ago was in a gory fight where, he knows exactly what he's getting into. And I can promise you, Jason Knight is going to offer more than Paulie Malignaggi in that essence.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
Yeah, Juan, did you get a chance to see Artem versus Jason Knight a few months ago?
Yeah, man, those guys are warriors.
That's crazy, right?
That's hardcore, right?
Yeah, man, that bare knuckle stuff is no joke. I thought it was a shtick at first. I didn't think it was really legit, but they go out there, man, and they throw down. I can appreciate any sport where people go in there with that ferocity and that will to compete.
Absolutely. So I got a question that piggybacks on this from Nathan at @N_Weber1212. He says, what happens to Paulie if he loses? You guys think he fights again, or is this a one and done if Paulie gets bruised up?
Juan, take it away.
I think this is a one and done for him. Paulie could get boxing fights if he wanted boxing fights. He wants this to be quick, easy work for him. And I think that if he gets bruised up or if it's more of a dog fight than he expects, I don't think he'll do it again. I think Paulie's doing whatever he can to be relevant, and I don't think he wants a real job. But I feel that if he gets roughed up on this, he's going to finally be done with combat sports and, move on to bigger and better things for him.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, if he does win, however, do you think that gets him closer to Conor McGregor in any stratosphere, way, shape, or form?
I don't. I think he's gonna keep saying that forever. I don't see that fight ever actually happening. Because McGregor doesn't need the money anymore.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't. Fighting Paulie Malignaggi doesn't do anything for his legacy either. If they did do a boxing fight, I feel like some people would watch it. I'd watch it just for
I'd watch it too.
But it's not something that I need to see. If it happens, great. If not, like, I really don't care. Because I have no question in my mind. Like, Paulie was a good boxer back in the day, but he's over the hill now. Like, there's no with Mayweather. There's the mystique. You know, there's always like, oh, can he still do it? Can he still put together a game plan? You know, Floyd never really showed a huge drop off in what he could do. Paulie, like, we've seen that drop off. We've seen, you know, how high Mount Malinaji goes, and it's done. Like, that's not something anyone's interested in.
Right. It stops right at Adrian Broner. That's where the mountaintop is. So, all right. I think we're starting to round out the episode. I got one more. It doesn't really pertain to what we're talking about, but I want to answer it for Kenneth Roberts at Mr._Tiddlewinks. He says, what are your opinions on Chris Cyborg not renewing her contract with the UFC and looking to test free agency for her next fight? Interesting stuff.
Juan, go ahead.
I think that's great for her. You know, Chris is a really cool chick. You know, it's funny. One of my first big sponsors was one of her sponsors for the longest. She's a really cool lady. She put her time in with this sport, and you know, every fighter in their head, towards the end of your career, you know, you start getting a number. And you're like, you know how many more times you can do that. I think she's starting to think about that number now. And it's not like before where she was, you know, the baddest chick on the planet. Now she's like, all right, well, you know, a big camp takes a lot on you. It's a big toll on your body, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And for her, you know, knows that she can go to any organization on the planet and get one, easier fights, and two, probably more money.
Yeah, she's going to main event anywhere she goes, no matter what, pretty much.
Definitely.
Right.
So, yeah, I pretty much agree. I think at this point, if she's not carrying the baddest woman on the planet title, she may as well go around. I mean, the Julia Budd fight in Bellator is a great fight for her that I think people would want to see. I'm sure she would love to fight in Japan, so she has all kinds of options.
I mean,
Right.
I selfishly, I really want to see Nunes versus Cyborg 2. I mean, that's just me being selfish. I really want to see that rematch, but I understand that money's involved and that, you know, in that case, Cyborg is very smart to consider other options.
Right.
For sure.
And, you know, Cyborg did everything a lady could do in that sport, man. You know, in combat sports in general, you know, she's competed at the world level for jiu-jitsu. She fought a world champion Muay Thai artist in Muay Thai. You know, she's made a career of going and proving like she'll throw down in any discipline, anywhere with anyone. So she's kind of for me, you know, her Ronda Rousey, who I'm not a fan of at all, but her Ronda Rousey and Boom are like in a different stratosphere altogether when it comes to mixed martial arts and female combat sports. You know, they've done things in pretty much between those three, they've won pretty much everything you can win as a female combative sports athlete. Aside from maybe like a wrestling gold medal, but you know, Ronda Rousey was an Olympian. You know.
Yeah.
You know, Holly Holm, world champion boxer, world champion kickboxer, Cyborg, you know, this brilliant jiu-jitsu artist as well as a great kickboxer and boxer and, you know, MMA athlete also. So between those three ladies, I mean, I think they've pretty much done all you can do, and they really put women's combat sports in the spotlight. And you know, they're all three Hall of Famers in my book. You know?
No doubt. No doubt. Couldn't have said it better.
Absolutely. Well, Juan, I think that wraps it up. We've taken enough time from you. Thank you so much, bro. And I can say this, that without a doubt, this is the most fun I have had of any episode of the Split Decision podcast. You are the man. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate you.
No problem, man. Thank you.
All right,
good luck
have a good
in
one,
the fight,
bro.
man. We'll be watching and pulling for you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
All right,
You too, man.
peace.
All right, guys. As usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. It's the Split Decision Podcast, 4 words. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.